As you now know, the world over has hit a milestone. We are 25 years old, and it was impossible last week to fit all the segments in we wanted to, so I wanted to continue the celebration. As an author, you know, I love interviewing writers, and I've had the privilege of speaking to some of the greats. Whether they're discussing craft or their worldview, there's nothing like talking to a great storyteller. So here are a few, starting with Academy Award-winning screenwriter and author of The Exorcist, my pal, the late, great William Peter Blatty.
I went to Georgetown, and because of that scholarship, I was able to sit in the front row in theology class and listen to a Jesuit named Father Eugene Gallagher start telling the wildest stories about something called possession and an exorcism going on in the neighborhood. Wow. It never left my mind, and I thought immediately, if someone could ever document that case. I was nonfiction, I'm not. What a help to someone's faith it could be, to everyone's faith, especially mine. And that was the germ. Of course, I didn't realize then that that person would wind up being me.
How does your faith, and how did your faith shape that work, The Exorcist, which I would argue, because of it is such a in-your-face assessment of evil. You must look, and you're consequently also looking at its opposite without knowing it.
Yeah. It was, again, from the start, an apostolic work. I mean, I wasn't expecting something big out of The Exorcist. But I'm a comic novelist. I would like it to be respectfully reviewed and not to get people poking fun at me, and then I'll go back to my career. But this is something I've always thought should be done.
Best-selling author James Patterson. How many collaborators do you have?
I don't know.
Ghostwriter.
Why? Are you looking for a job?
I might be. I'll give you the resume on my way out.
I don't. I should, because that question gets asked occasionally. I don't know. I would say 7 or 8 probably.
How do you divide the labor? When
How does it work?
Yeah, right. You write the outline. You give
You
that
ready?
to
We alternate words. No, yeah, okay. No, I'll write a long outline, and then I suggest that I'd like them to contribute to the outline, partly because I want their contribution, partly because I want them invested, which is even more important. And then they go off, they do the first draft. I want to see pages every 2 or 3 weeks, which is not the way publishers do it. No. Because a publisher, you work for a year and a half, and it comes in and they go, this isn't exactly what I was thinking. I was expecting something, it doesn't work that way with me. After I'll be going like, great, keep going, or hold it, we're off the tracks, and let's talk about how it happened and what we do about it, et cetera. But it's a lot easier to deal with 2 weeks worth of writing than it is to deal with a year and a half polished, oh my God, my life is depending on this kind of thing. And then after I get a draft in, I will do however many drafts from one to...
You write repeated drafts of that one?
Yes, yeah.
Wow. How many normally?
Lately, it's more 1 and 2. In the past, it was more 3 and 4. But most of the people I work with now, I've worked with them for a while. They know, and we just have it.
You have the process now.
Once the voice is established, it becomes a lot easier to do so. That's why you can have a television series with maybe 8 writers.
Right.
Once the voice is in people's heads, they know how Tom Selleck is going to, how he's going to talk in Blue Bloods or whatever.
Right. So you're sort of the James Patterson showrunner. The queen of suspense, Mary Higgins Clark, gave us some writing tips that came in handy.
I write about very nice people whose lives are invaded. They are not looking for trouble. They are doing exactly what they should be doing, and something happens. And I think that maybe this is part of the reason that I've been blessed enough to be so successful. I think people walk in the shoes of the people in the book. They say, this could be me. This could be my daughter. This could be that sweet girl down the block this is happening to.
And even though terrible things, as you said, do happen to these people quite unexpectedly, in the end, everything seems to balance out. And there is a comfort, almost a reassurance in that. Are you aware of that as you're writing?
Well, you do realize that suspense It is the sense of justice. The scales of justice have been balanced. The victim has been, her murderer, if it turns out to be that, has been caught. The justice is happening, and that's part of it. We all want the satisfaction of thinking that things are fair again.
I am told you occasionally off your enemies in your books. Is that true?
Oh, well, you know, I joke about that. You know, you have the plumber doesn't show up for the 3 months that the kitchen is being renovated. And I can visualize him.
Being bludgeoned over the head with a lead pipe. Oh,
no, I joke about the fact you can get all your meanness out, you know,
Sure.
by murdering a few people, you know.
In print.
In print, purely in print.
Master novelist James Lee Burke.
I hit the wrong Rubicon with the Lost Get Back Boogie. That was the fourth book, viable book.
Right.
And I thought I would just publish it, but instead I went 14 years before I got back in hardback. And that book was rejected 111 times. And my agent, Philip Spitzer, whom I met when he was driving a cab in Hell's Kitchen and running a one-man agency at night, kept it under submission for 9 years.
Oh my God.
And we decided we'd just wear them down. I relearned this lesson during those years I couldn't publish. That if you never lose faith in the purpose for your gift, if you keep your contract with your higher power, the source of your creativity, eventually you'll see the reason for its presence in your life realized. I believe that absolutely, that God does not make mistakes. The teachings of Jesus are the most reasonable explanation for both our connection with the unseen world, and at the same time, it provides us with a way of living and contending with a world that in many ways we will never be compatible with. For me, it's the best way to live. I've tried other ways and they don't work as well.
Your cousin, Andre Dubus,
Yeah.
said, I am a Catholic writer. I always look for what's the ethical question here.
Yeah,
Would you join that chorus?
sure. I might rephrase it. I'm a writer who happens to be Catholic. But I talked to my good friend, Father Jim Hogan at Christ the King, our parish in Montana. He said, I was very complimented. He said, I just finished your new book. You're the most Catholic writer I've ever read. You ooze with Catholicism.
Best-selling novelist Dean Koontz rarely grants interviews, but he's granted us a few.
The experience of your childhood looms large over your work and your life. Tell me about your father, Ray Koontz.
Well, my dad was, I didn't know what was wrong with my dad when I was a child. I didn't even know it until I was much later in life. But I knew he was an alcoholic because he was drunk much of the time. He had 44 jobs in 34 years. He would punch out the boss from time to time, and that's not a good move. And we never knew whether we were going to have a roof over our heads or where the food was coming from. My mom started working in a five and dime, and she was sort of the breadwinner of the family, but it wasn't much.
Had to be terrifying for you and your mother.
To a degree, and he would threaten to kill us frequently, but he would get into those things where life would go very badly for him. He had no faith, really, but then when things would go very badly and he would maybe end up in jail or in a bar fight or this or that, then he would suddenly take out the Bible and begin to read and declaim over it. And as a kid, I say this, it was a dark kind of childhood, but I was not an unhappy child. And when I first ever talked about it, I began to realize people thought, oh, what a poor, sad child. But in reality, even as a child, I knew that happiness was a choice. And you could always find something in the worst of times to make you happy. That didn't make the worst times go away, but it meant that there was a way out of this. And for me, very young, it became books. There were no books in our house, so I would get them from the library. And by reading, I discovered very important things. And number one was, not all families were like this. When you're growing up in that environment, you assume that this is normal. And when you find out it's not normal, that gives you something important to shoot.
The elegant short story writer and novelist Ron Hansen is always so perceptive and moving.
You write in the book that writing is a sacrament. Explain that for people. Some might hear that and go, huh? You know,
well, I'm looking at the very basic word sacrament, a visible sign of an invisible grace. And I think in moments when I'm really writing well, I'm in touch with God in the same way that I am when I'm at prayer. I feel intuitive. I feel that I know things I shouldn't know. And that when I'm writing as well as I can, there's a feeling of joy, even if it's a struggle. And I think that's the same thing that happens to us in a lot of our sacramental moments.
And indeed, you say here, what happens when you're writing is very close to what happens when you're at prayer. Explain that a bit, as I think that intrigued me when I saw it.
When you're reading or when you're talking, everything is located in your head.
Right.
But when you're writing well, it feels like it's located in your soul or in your heart or whatever we call that central part of ourselves. And so it's not really your head. My head is what I use for revision, but the instinctive, natural part of me comes from someplace else, and it's exactly the same place I locate my prayer.
And humorist Dave Barry visited our set.
Your thoughts on this place over our shoulder here?
It's wonderful. I mean, as I say, if you look at your taxes as getting you some, useful service, no, you're going to be very depressed. But if you look at it as entertainment, it's like Vegas, but funnier, wackier.
Such amazing talents. We will continue to celebrate 25 years of the world over as we wind up 2021. Stay tuned for that. We really should have a party somewhere. Maybe I'll host one in New Orleans. I'm going to figure that out.